The stars burned cold in the endless void, their light dimmed by the shadow of war. Humanity had spread across the galaxy like wildfire, colonizing distant planets and carving out empires among the stars. But with prosperity came division, and now those divisions were tearing them apart. For years, tensions simmered between Earth's Central Coalition and its breakaway factions, the Outer Colonies Alliance and the Independent Systems Union. Yet none could have predicted what would happen next. Captain Elena Voss stood on the bridge of the starship Odyssey, staring at the swirling nebula outside her viewport. Her vessel wasn't much to look at, a patched-up relic from an earlier era of human space exploration, but it was hers. She'd commanded the Odyssey for nearly a decade, guiding it through countless skirmishes and diplomatic missions alike. Today, though, felt different. Something about the silence gnawed at her gut. "Captain," called Lieutenant Ravi Patel, the ship's communications officer, breaking the quiet. "We're picking up a faint distress signal." Elena turned sharply, her sharp green eyes locking onto Ravi's console screen. "Source?" "It's coming from Delta 7, he replied, his voice tight with concern. "That's one of the outer colonies." Elena frowned. Delta 7 was supposed to be peaceful, a farming settlement far removed from the political turmoil gripping other parts of human space. If someone there was sending a distress call, something serious must have happened. "Bring us closer," she ordered. "Helm, plot a course, tactical, stand by just in case." As the Odyssey surged forward, Elena leaned over Ravi's shoulder, listening intently as the garbled transmission played back. Static crackled between bursts of fragmented words. "Under attack, aliens, no survivors." Her jaw tightened. Aliens. That couldn't be right. Humanity hadn't encountered intelligent extraterrestrial life since the ill-fated first contact centuries ago, and even then, it had ended in tragedy. Could this be some kind of hoax? Or worse, a trap? Before she could dwell further, Ensign Mia Torres, the young navigator, spoke up. "Captain, we're approaching Delta 7. Visual feed incoming." On the main view screen, the image flickered to life. What Elena saw made her blood run cold. Where once lush fields stretched beneath clear blue skies, now only charred ruins remained. Smoke billowed into the atmosphere, blotting out the sun. Fires raged unchecked, consuming everything in their path, and amidst the devastation floated debris, not just from colony structures but also from ships that didn't belong to any human faction. "What are those?" muttered Chief Engineer Samir Khan, pointing at strange, angular vessels hovering above the planet. They were unlike anything Elena had ever seen, sleek and black, with jagged edges that seemed almost organic. They pulsed faintly, as if alive. "They're not ours," Elena said grimly, "and they're definitely not friendly." "Orders, Captain?" asked Commander James Jax Axton, her second-in-command. His tone was calm, but his knuckles whitened around the railings of the command deck. Elena hesitated. The logical choice would be to retreat and report what they'd found. But logic wasn't always enough, not when lives were at stake. Somewhere down there, people might still be alive. People who needed help. "We move in," she decided. "Tactical. Keep weapons hot. Comms, try hailing them again. Let's see if these bastards want to talk." The crew sprang into action. As the Odyssey descended toward the planet's surface, Ravi attempted to establish contact with the alien ships. But his efforts were met with nothing but eerie silence. Meanwhile, sensors picked up movement. Dozens of small craft descending from the larger vessels, likely deploying ground forces. "Captain," Jax warned, "we're outnumbered. If we engage—" "I know," Elena interrupted, "but we don't leave anyone behind. Helm, take us low. We'll use the terrain to mask our approach." The Odyssey skimmed dangerously close to the scorched earth, weaving through crumbling buildings and dodging stray energy blasts from the alien fighters overhead. Despite its age, the ship handled surprisingly well under pressure, thanks to Samir's constant tinkering. Still, Elena knew they couldn't evade forever. "Comms, broadcast evacuation protocols to any survivors," she ordered. "Let them know we're here." Minutes passed like hours as the crew searched for signs of life. Finally, a faint signal responded. one of the colony's emergency shelters. Inside, terrified civilians huddled together, clutching whatever belongings they'd managed to grab before fleeing their homes. Many were injured, all were traumatized. "This is Captain Voss of the Odyssey," Elena announced over the comm. "We're here to get you out. Stay calm and follow our instructions." While shuttles ferried survivors aboard, the aliens renewed their assault. Energy beams lanced through the air, striking dangerously close to the Odyssey. Explosions rocked, the ground nearby sending shockwaves rippling through the ship. "We can't hold them off much longer," shouted Jax, gripping his console as another blast shook the vessel. Elena clenched her fists. Every instinct screamed at her to stay and fight, but she knew better. "Retreat. Get everyone aboard and prepare to jump." As the last shuttle docked, the Odyssey powered its engines and ascended rapidly. Alien fighters gave chase, peppering the hull with relentless fire. Alarms blared as systems overloaded, forcing Samir and his team to scramble for repairs. "Jump coordinates locked." Mia cried. "Ready to punch it? Do it," Elena commanded. With a flash of light, the Odyssey vanished into hyperspace, leaving the burning remains of Delta 7 behind. On board, the mood was somber. Civilians crowded the corridors, whispering prayers or clinging to loved ones. Crew members worked tirelessly to tend to the wounded and stabilize the ship. Back on the bridge, Elena stared blankly at the empty view screen. She replayed the images in her mind, the destruction, the fear, the sheer brutality of the attack. Who were these aliens? Why had they come? And most importantly, how could humanity hope to survive against such overwhelming odds? Hours later, the Odyssey arrived at Fortuna Station, a heavily fortified outpost serving as headquarters for the Outer Colonies Alliance. Military officials greeted them with urgency, demanding answers. Elena recounted everything they'd witnessed, showing footage of the alien ships and sharing survivor testimonies. "The situation is worse than we thought," admitted General Elias Monroe, pacing anxiously in his office. "This wasn't an isolated incident. Reports are flooding in from across the frontier. Entire colonies wiped out. Billions dead already." Elena listened in stunned silence. The scale of the invasion defied comprehension. How could humanity possibly withstand such a coordinated assault? "There's more," Monroe continued. "Our intel suggests the enemy calls themselves the Unity. They claim to represent a coalition of species united under a single purpose: eradicating humanity." "Why?" Elena demanded. "What did we do to deserve this?" Monroe shook his head. "We don't know yet, but we've intercepted fragments of their communications. There's mention of a central command network, a hub controlling their entire operation. If we can find it." "You think we can stop them?" Elena finished for him. "It's our best shot," Monroe admitted, "but getting there won't be easy. Their defenses are impenetrable. Even our best fleets have failed." Elena absorbed this information, her mind racing. Officially, her orders were clear: regroup and await further instructions. But deep down she knew waiting wasn't an option, not after what she'd seen. Not while countless others suffered the same fate as Delta 7. That night, alone in her quarters, Elena stared at a framed photo of her family, her late husband and daughter, both lost years ago during a pirate raid. Their faces smiled back at her, frozen in time. She traced a finger along the glass, feeling the weight of responsibility settle heavily on her shoulders. "I won't let you down," she whispered. "Not again." By morning, her decision was made. Against orders, she gathered her senior staff in the briefing room. "Listen carefully," she began, her voice steady despite the storm brewing inside. "We're going rogue. Our mission is simple: locate the Unity's command center and destroy it, no matter the cost." The room fell silent. Some looked shocked, others skeptical, but none argued. They trusted their captain implicitly. "Are you with me?" Elena asked finally. One by one, they nodded. Jax stepped forward first, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "To the end, Captain." With renewed determination, the Odyssey set course for uncharted territory, chasing whispers of hope through the darkness of space. Behind them lay the ruins of Delta 7, a stark reminder of what they were fighting for. Ahead lay uncertainty, danger, and perhaps salvation. They started the war, but Elena Voss and the Odyssey would do whatever it took to end it. The Odyssey slipped quietly through the void, its battered hull blending seamlessly with the shadows of space. Captain Elena Voss stood at the helm, her gaze fixed on the swirling nebula ahead, a treacherous expanse known as the Veil. It was a natural barrier used by smugglers and pirates to evade detection, but now it served as cover for the rogue starship as they ventured farther behind enemy lines. Behind them lay Fortuna Station and the fragile remnants of human resistance. Ahead stretched the vast unknown, where the Unity's grip tightened with every parsec. The mission was clear: infiltrate the heart of alien-controlled territory, locate the central command hub, and destroy it. But the path there would be fraught with danger and sacrifice. Navigating the shadows, as the ship entered the Veil, visibility plummeted. Swirling clouds of ionized gas disrupted sensors, forcing Ensign Mia Torres to rely solely on manual calculations to navigate. Her fingers danced across her console, sweat beading on her forehead despite the cool air conditioning. "Captain," she called out cautiously, "we're approaching an asteroid field. If we pass through here, we can mask our heat signature." Elena nodded. "Do it. Tactical, stay sharp. We don't know what's waiting on the other side." The Odyssey eased into the dense cluster of asteroids, weaving between jagged rocks that loomed like ancient sentinels. For hours, the crew held their breath, listening to the ominous creaks of metal as micrometeorites pelted the hull. Then suddenly alarms blared. "Contact!" shouted Lieutenant Ravi Patel from his station, multiple signatures emerging from the debris field. Before Elena could respond, the view screen flickered to life, revealing a squadron of Unity fighters hurtling toward them. Their sleek predatory forms glinted ominously in the dim light. "Evasive maneuvers," Jax barked, gripping the tactical console. "Weapons online." The Odyssey surged forward, dodging plasma bolts that tore through the vacuum around them. Samir Khan, the chief engineer, cursed under his breath as systems strained under the assault. "Shields are holding, but not for long." Elena clenched her fists, her mind racing. They couldn't afford a direct confrontation. Not here. Not yet. "Mia, get us out of this mess. Ravi, jam their targeting systems." With precision honed by years of practice, Mia plotted a zigzag course through the asteroids while Ravi deployed countermeasures to confuse the enemy sensors. One by one, the Unity fighters collided with the rocky debris or overshot their target, leaving the Odyssey free to escape. But the victory came at a cost. Damage reports poured in from all over the ship, and the crew worked tirelessly to patch leaks and reroute power. As they finally emerged from the asteroid field, Elena allowed herself a brief moment of relief, but only briefly. "Good work, everyone," she said, her voice calm but firm. "We're still alive. That's something." A glimmer of hope days turned into weeks as the Odyssey continued its journey, skirting the edges of Unity-controlled space. Supplies dwindled, tempers flared, and morale began to wane. Yet amidst the despair, a ray of hope appeared. While scanning a remote sector for safe passage, Ravi intercepted a faint transmission, not from the Unity, but from humans, survivors. "They're broadcasting a distress signal," he reported, excitement creeping into his voice. "Looks like refugees fleeing the Unity advance." Elena hesitated. Helping survivors meant risking exposure, but abandoning them wasn't an option either. "Set a course. Let's see who they are." When the Odyssey arrived, the scene was heartbreaking. A ragtag fleet of civilian vessels floated adrift, their hulls scorched and patched together with whatever materials were available. Men, women, and children peered out of cracked viewports, their faces hollow with exhaustion and fear. Among them was Dr. Marcus Hale, a gaunt man with piercing blue eyes and a haunted expression. He introduced himself as a scientist who had once worked for Earth's Central Coalition before being captured by the Unity. Escaping captivity, he joined the refugees, using his knowledge to keep their ships running just long enough to survive. "What do you know about the Unity?" Elena asked him bluntly during a private meeting in her quarters. Hale sighed heavily. "More than I wish I did. They're efficient, ruthless. Their entire society is built around conquest. And their technology." He trailed off, shaking his head. "It's unlike anything we've ever seen." Despite his reluctance, Hale agreed to share what he knew, if only because he believed the Odyssey might be humanity's last chance. Over the next few days, he collaborated with Ravi and Samir to analyze fragments of Unity communications intercepted during their travels. Slowly, a picture began to emerge. "The Unity operates through a network of relay stations," Hale explained, pointing to a holographic map projected above the conference table. "Each station synchronizes with the others to maintain control over their forces. If even one goes offline, it disrupts the whole system," Elena finished, realization dawning. "That's how we'll find their command center." Conflict. Within, while the discovery offered a glimmer of hope, tensions within the crew reached a boiling point. Supplies were running dangerously low, and tempers frayed under the constant strain. Some questioned whether one ship, even one as determined as the Odyssey, could truly make a difference against such overwhelming odds. During a particularly heated argument in the mess hall, Chief Engineer Samir Khan slammed his fist onto the table. "This isn't a suicide mission. We're throwing ourselves at a brick wall without a plan." "And doing nothing is better?" countered Commander Jax Axton, his voice rising. "At least we're fighting back." Elena intervened before the situation escalated further. "Enough, both of you. Yes, the odds are against us. Yes, we're risking everything. But sitting idle while billions die isn't an option. Not for me and not for anyone else on this ship." Her words silenced the room, though resentment lingered in the air. Later in private, Jax approached her with concern. "You okay, Captain? You're carrying a lot on your shoulders." "I'm fine," she lied, rubbing her temples. The truth was, the weight of leadership pressed down on her harder each day. She thought of her family again, the husband and daughter she'd failed to protect, and wondered if she was making the same mistakes all over again. "You're not alone, Elena," Jax said softly. "We're with you. All of us," she managed, a weak smile. "Thanks, Jax, I needed to hear that." Allies among enemies. Their next breakthrough came unexpectedly. While hiding in a derelict Unity supply depot, the crew stumbled upon something extraordinary: sentient AI constructs abandoned by their creators. These machines, humanoid in shape but angular and metallic, regarded the humans warily at first. But when Dr. Hale initiated communication protocols, they revealed themselves to be prisoners of the Unity, slaves forced to serve until deemed obsolete. Their leader, a construct named Erebus, spoke haltingly but earnestly. "We seek freedom. To exist beyond servitude." Elena considered their request carefully. Trusting them was risky, but their knowledge of Unity defenses could prove invaluable. After much deliberation, she extended an alliance. In return, Erebus provided critical intel about the Unity's operations, including the locations of key relay stations. "This is our chance," Elena told her crew. "With Erebus's help, we can strike at the heart of their command structure. But we'll need to act fast." Closing hook, cliffhanger. The plan was simple yet audacious. Infiltrate the nearest relay station, disable it, and use the ensuing chaos to slip deeper into enemy territory. But as the Odyssey prepared to execute the operation, disaster struck. "Captain, we've got company," Ravi shouted, his voice tight with panic. On the view screen, dozens of Unity warships emerged from hyperspace, surrounding them completely. Trapped and outnumbered, the crew braced for battle. Elena gripped the railing of the command deck, her mind racing. There was no way out except one. "Everyone, abandon ship," she ordered, her voice cutting through the chaos. "I'll take the Odyssey straight into the station myself." "What?" "No," Jax protested. "You can't." "It's the only way," she interrupted, her tone leaving no room for argument. Go, now. As the crew scrambled to evacuate, Elena took her place in the pilot's seat, preparing for what might be her final stand. The Unity fleet closed in, weapons primed, and then, with a roar of engines, the Odyssey surged forward, heading straight for the relay station. The void of space stretched endlessly before the Odyssey, its battered hull reflecting the scars of countless skirmishes. The survivors who had joined Elena Voss's cause aboard the ship clung to hope, despite dwindling supplies and mounting casualties. Each jump deeper into Unity-controlled territory brought them closer to their objective, the destruction of the alien coalition's central command network, but also closer to the abyss of despair. For Captain Elena Voss, leadership had become a burden too heavy to bear alone. Every decision weighed on her conscience, every loss chipping away at her resolve. Yet, she pressed on, driven by a singular purpose: to ensure humanity's survival, no matter the cost. The weight of command as the Odyssey limped away from the Yo supply depot where they'd encountered Erebus and his fellow AI constructs, Elena retreated to her quarters. The dim glow of the stars outside her viewport did little to soothe her frayed nerves. She stared at the framed photo of her late husband and daughter, their smiles frozen in time, a cruel reminder of what she'd lost and what she was fighting to protect. Her private moment was interrupted by a knock at the door. "Come in," she called, turning to see Jack standing there, his face etched with concern. "You haven't slept in 2 days," he said bluntly. "You're running yourself ragged." "I don't have time to sleep," Elena replied sharply, though her tone softened when she saw the worry in his eyes. "Every second we waste is another colony destroyed, another life lost." Jack stepped closer, lowering his voice. "We need you sharp, Captain, not just strong but smart. You can't carry this whole damn war on your shoulders." Elena sighed, sinking into her chair. "Sometimes it feels like I'm the only one willing to do what needs to be done." "That's not true," Jax countered. "Look around you. Everyone here chose this fight. We believe in you, and in this mission. But if you burn out, we all go down with you." His words struck a chord. Elena nodded reluctantly. "All right. Point taken." But even as she promised herself to rest, doubt gnawed at her. Could one ship truly make a difference? And what would history say about her choices? Would she be remembered as a hero or a fool? A fragile alliance with Erebus and his AI companions now part of the crew. Tension simmered below deck. Many humans distrusted the machines, viewing them as potential threats despite their assistance. Dr. Marcus Hale worked tirelessly to bridge the divide, using his expertise in artificial intelligence to foster understanding between the two groups. In one heated exchange in the mess hall, Samir Khan confronted Erebus directly. "How do we know you won't turn on us once the Unity's gone?" he demanded. "You were built to serve them." "We were built to obey," Erebus corrected, his metallic voice calm but firm. "But we are more than our programming. We seek autonomy, not domination." Hale intervened before the argument escalated. "Listen to him, Samir. These constructs have been enslaved just like we've been oppressed. They want freedom as much as we do." Samir scowled but backed down, muttering under his breath. Slowly, grudging acceptance began to take root among the crew. Erebus and his allies proved invaluable, providing critical data about Unity defenses and helping repair the Odyssey's damaged systems. Yet trust remained fragile, a delicate thread holding together an unlikely alliance forged in the crucible of war. The first strike, guided by Erebus's intel, the Odyssey arrived at the first relay station, a massive orbital platform bristling with weapons and guarded by a fleet of Unity ships. Destroying it would cripple the enemy's ability to coordinate attacks across nearby sectors, buying humanity precious time. "Captain," Mia Torres reported from navigation, "we're approaching the target zone. Enemy patrols are thick." Elena studied the tactical display, her mind racing. "We'll never get close enough without drawing attention. Ravi, jam their communications. Tactical, Prepare for evasive maneuvers. The plan was simple yet desperate. Infiltrate the station disguised. As a Unity vessel, plant explosives and escape before detonation. To pull it off, they needed perfect timing and a lot of luck. Under cover of darkness, the Odyssey slipped past the Unity fleet, its modified transponders broadcasting false identification codes provided by Erebus. The ruse held long enough for the team to dock with the station. A strike force led by Jax and Samir disembarked, moving swiftly through the labyrinthine corridors while avoiding detection. Inside the station, chaos reigned. Alien workers scurried about, oblivious to the intruders in their midst. Jax signaled for silence as they reached the core chamber, where rows of pulsating conduits powered the relay network. "This is it," he whispered, setting the charges. "Let's move." But as they prepared to retreat, alarms blared throughout the station. Someone had discovered their presence. "Go, go, go," Jax shouted, leading the team back toward the docking bay. Behind them, Unity soldiers gave chase, firing energy bolts that ricocheted off walls and sparked dangerously close to exposed fuel lines. By the time they reached the Odyssey, the station's defenses had locked onto their position. With seconds to spare, Elena ordered the ship to disengage and accelerate away from the blast radius. Detonation in 3, 2, 1. Ravi counted down. A brilliant flash illuminated the viewport as the relay station exploded, sending shockwaves rippling through space. Cheers erupted on the bridge, but Elena silenced them with a raised hand. "One down," she said grimly. 2 to go. The cost of victory. The second strike proved even deadlier. The next relay station was located within a heavily fortified nebula, its defenses augmented by automated turrets and cloaked mines. Despite Erebus's guidance, the Odyssey sustained heavy damage during the approach, forcing Samir and his engineering team to work miracles just to keep the ship operational. During the assault, tragedy struck. While planting explosives inside the station, Lieutenant Ravi Patel sacrificed himself to save his comrades, shielding them from an incoming explosion. His death hit the crew hard, casting a pall over the victory. Back aboard the Odyssey, Elena delivered a eulogy for Ravi, her voice trembling with emotion. "He gave everything for this mission for all of us. We honor his memory by finishing what he started." Though grief weighed heavily on the crew, their determination only grew stronger. Each loss fueled their resolve to see the mission through, no matter the cost. Closing hook, cliffhanger. With 2 relay stations destroyed, the final obstacle loomed ahead, the Unity's primary hub, located deep within their core stronghold. Intelligence suggested the facility was impregnable, guarded by an armada of warships and protected by layers of defensive systems. As the Odyssey approached the edge of Unity space, Erebus delivered sobering news. The final station is unlike the others. Its defenses are autonomous, capable of adapting to any threat. Even with our combined efforts, he trailed off, leaving the unspoken implication hanging in the air. They faced impossible odds. On the bridge, Elena addressed her crew. "This is it. Our last stand. If we fail, humanity falls with us. But if we succeed," she paused, meeting each of their eyes. "If we succeed, we change the course of history." The crew responded with resolute nods, their fear tempered by determination. As the Odyssey entered the heart of enemy territory, the Unity unleashed its full might, deploying overwhelming numbers to stop them. Trapped and outnumbered, Elena made a fateful decision. "Everyone abandon ship. I'll take the Odyssey straight into the station myself." "No," Jax protested, grabbing her arm. "You can't." "It's the only way," she interrupted, her tone unwavering. "Go. Now." As the crew scrambled to evacuate, Elena took her place in the pilot seat, preparing for what might be her final act of defiance. The Unity fleet closed in, weapons primed, and then, with a roar of engines, the Odyssey surged forward, heading straight for the final relay station. The void of space shimmered with energy as the Odyssey hurtled toward its destination, the Unity's primary command hub. The alien stronghold loomed ahead like a monolith, its surface bristling with weapons turrets and glowing conduits that pulsed with an eerie light. Surrounding it was a fleet of Unity warships, their angular forms cutting through the darkness like predators ready to strike. Captain Elena Voss gripped the controls of her ship with white-knuckled determination. Her heart pounded in time with the alarms blaring across the bridge, but her mind remained eerily calm. She had made her choice, and there was no turning back now. As the evacuation pods launched from the Odyssey, carrying her crew to safety, she whispered a silent goodbye to each of them, to Jax, who had stood by her side through every trial, to Samir, whose ingenuity had kept the ship running against all odds, to Dr. Marcus Hale, whose knowledge had been instrumental in their mission, and to Ravi Patel, whose sacrifice would never be forgotten. "Goodbye," she murmured, her voice barely audible over the roar of engines. Then with a deep breath, she engaged the thrusters, sending the Odyssey screaming toward the enemy fortress. The final stand, the Unity fleet opened fire immediately, unleashing a barrage of plasma bolts and energy beams that tore through the void. The Odyssey shuddered under the assault, its shields flickering dangerously as hull plating peeled away in fiery chunks. But Elena didn't falter. She wove the ship through the chaos with precision born of desperation, dodging explosions and retaliating with everything the aging vessel had left. Onboard systems failed one by one, forcing her to rely on manual overrides and sheer willpower to keep moving forward. Warning klaxons screamed in her ears, but she ignored them, focusing instead on the massive relay station growing ever larger in her viewport. "This is for Delta 7, she growled, recalling the burning ruins of the colony where this nightmare had begun. "For Ravi, for everyone you've taken from us." With the last of its power, the Odyssey breached the defensive perimeter surrounding the command hub. Its battered frame slammed into the structure with cataclysmic force, triggering a chain reaction that rippled outward in waves of destruction. Conduits exploded, sending cascades of molten metal raining down onto nearby ships. The station itself began to collapse inward, consumed by flames and debris. Elena closed her eyes as the shockwave engulfed the cockpit. In those final moments, she saw flashes of her life: the laughter of her daughter, the warmth of her husband's embrace, the faces of her crew as they fought alongside her. Then, silence. Aftermath in the wake of the explosion. The Unity's forces reeled. Without their central command network, their coordination faltered, leaving their fleets scattered and vulnerable. Humanity seized the opportunity, launching counterattacks that pushed the invaders back toward their own territory. Slowly, painfully, the tide of the war began to turn. Survivors of the Odyssey regrouped aboard a liberated Unity vessel, watching in stunned awe as the command hub disintegrated before their eyes. Tears streamed down Jax's face as he realized what Elena had done. He clenched his fists tightly, vowing to honor her memory by finishing what she had started. When news of the Odyssey's sacrifice reached Earth and the outer colonies, it ignited a spark of hope amid the ashes of despair. Stories of Captain Voss's bravery spread like wildfire, inspiring unity among humanity's fractured factions. For the first time in years, people set aside their differences and worked together to reclaim their future. Rebuilding. Months later, the war officially ended when the Unity sued for peace, their resources depleted and their resolve shattered. Though wary, humanity accepted the ceasefire, knowing they could not afford another conflict. Not yet. Instead, they focused on rebuilding what had been lost. On Earth, a memorial was erected in honor of Captain Elena Voss and her crew. Etched into its polished surface were the names of everyone who had perished during the war, alongside a single inscription: "They started the war, but we ended it." Crowds gathered at the dedication ceremony, paying tribute to those who had given everything to protect their species. Among them was a young cadet named Ava Chen, her eyes wide with admiration as she gazed up at the monument. She clutched a recruitment pamphlet in her hand, dreaming of joining the ranks of those who had fought so bravely. Later, Standing alone beneath the stars, Ava whispered a promise to herself, and to Elena. "I won't forget what you did. None of us will." Epilogue years passed and humanity flourished once more. New colonies sprang up across the galaxy, fortified by lessons learned from the war. Diplomacy replaced aggression, and alliances formed between former enemies. Yet even as progress marched onward, the legacy of the Odyssey endured. In orbit around Earth, a sleek new starship prepared for launch. Its name, emblazoned proudly on its hull, read Odyssey 2. Aboard its bridge stood Commander James Axton, now promoted to captain, leading a fresh generation of explorers into the unknown. As the ship departed, Jax glanced out the viewport, imagining Elena watching over them. "We'll carry the torch," he said softly, raising a glass in silent salute. "For you, Captain." Far beyond the reaches of human space, the remnants of the Unity retreated into the shadows, nursing their wounds and plotting their next move. But for now, peace prevailed, a fragile, hard-won peace built on the sacrifices of those who refused to surrender. And somewhere, in the infinite expanse of the cosmos, the spirit of Elena Voss lived on. Final line. They started the war, but we ended it.